Education in Spain for children 0 to 6 years old is very similar to that of the U.S., with similar education guidelines being provided. When researching primary school in Spain, we found that it was divided into 3 different cycles. The first being for children 6 to 7 years, the second being for children 8 to 9 years, and the third being from. Similar to the U.S., if children do not pass these 3 cycles, they must repeat the education again. A lot of the courses in Spanish education as well as English educations mirror each other. However, one of the main differences in the curriculum would be the art education. Art in the U.S. is primarily seen as an elective, maybe not as important. However, in Spain, it is seen as a core curriculum and very important to the culture. Once a student is done with their primary education, they move on to secondary education. This is divided into 2 different cycles, one for ages 12 to 14 and the other ages 14 to 16. Many of the same classes that are taught in America are taught during this stage of the education cycle. After a student has completed their secondary education, they have 3 options. One option would be to go to bachillerato school, which is the equivalent of our high school. Another option would be to go to vocational training, and the last option would be to enter the workforce, because education is not required by government after secondary education. Students that choose to continue their education move on to the bachillerato school, which is mandatory if students want to get into a university. This school is a free education that consists of 2 academic years for students primarily ranging between the ages of 16 and 18. It immediately requires students to choose from one of the various specialized fields, which they can take corresponding classes for. The specialized fields include nature and health sciences, science and engineering, social sciences, humanity, or the arts. All students at the bachillerato school take a number of core subjects, including Spanish, foreign language, science, philosophy, and history. Like the U.S., students also choose from electives which may include a second foreign language, music, theater, or informational technology. Students that successfully complete the requirements of the bachillerato school will receive a diploma. If students opt to attend a university, they must take an entrance exam. La selectividad would be how you'd pronounce that. The exam results, along with students' academic record and grades, will determine not only access to a university, but also the degrees which the student can pursue. Another thing a student can choose to attend would be vocational training, also known as ciclos formativos, after completing their secondary education or after their bachillerato school as well. Vocational training is intended to provide practical training for working skills such as plumbing, electrical work, or hairdressing. There are 2 types of vocational training: middle grade training cycles for those who only have their ESO diploma, and superior training cycles for those who possess a Spanish bachillerato diploma. Some interesting statistics in terms of pricing and education would be that public education is funded by the state and consumes the largest portion of the education system budget, but Spain also boasts a large private education sector, which is dominated by Catholicism. Private education in Spain can range from €700 a year for subsidized Spanish schools, or up to €8,000 a year for private American or British boarding schools. In comparison, most private schools in America range between $7,000 to $10,000 a year, with boarding schools costing more than the average college education. Therefore, private schools in Spain are much more affordable than in the U.S. We also acknowledge that Spain is one of the poorest education systems in terms of dropout rates. In recent years, nearly 1 in 4 young Spaniards are dropping out of school early. This is the highest rate in the EU. In 2013, 23.5% of people ages 18 to 24 in the country had left the education system before completing their compulsory education.